Welcome to the Personal Podcast. I'm delighted to be joined today by Rob Brasington. Rob is founder of Rosemont Dental Group. Welcome, Rob.
Great to be here. Thank you very much for having me.
You're welcome. So after university, you worked on Necker and Moskito Islands. It's not your average graduate scheme. Yeah. How did that come about?
Yeah, it's not exactly traditional. Very, very fortunate. I guess my background's sort of been more so in tennis. So I grew up playing an awful lot of tennis, got to the sort of tender age of 17, realised I wasn't good enough and ended up going to university. When I was at university, I used to coach tennis alongside it to basically pay for the university lifestyle. One day there was a lady who inquired about wanting some tennis coaching, and I basically coached her for a four-week period when she was over here during the wedding. And later in the year, she gave me a call and said, look, I live in the BVI in the British Virgin Islands, and I'm the executive assistant to an ultra net worth, and that family ultimately want a tennis coach. So I got very fortunately whisked away. It probably isn't the right terminology in a sense for it, but I was very fortunate to go over there and be able to be exposed to a totally different world than what I'd probably seen before.
Yeah, I know. What was an average day like on the island?
Yeah, I mean, it was totally varied. There wasn't any sort of set days that were, the same. Some clients would want you on a tennis court early morning. Some would be more, wanting you to be more of a host and help out with pouring drinks and different things, which I'm not very good with.
How early, by the way?
6 a.m. was the start. Mm-hmm. But again, very fortunate. 6 a.m. on a private island.
I know.
I mean, there's worse places to be, I guess.
Lovely sunrises.
Incredible. So
wow.
Yeah.
And was it long days?
Yeah, there were long days. It was pretty much go for for the whole period that you were there. I was never sort of full time there. I was contracted. So I would go out basically for the festive period, and I'd coach on Moskito, basically. Necker was obviously just adjacent there, and it was a wonderful place to be. But it was hard yards, to be perfectly honest, in terms of obviously the work that you actually had to do. You're on court, a lot of hours. Whenever really the clients ultimately wanted you to be, you were there, which was totally fine, and totally fair. But it sort of didn't give you much of a breathing rest in a sense. But that was fine. And then, then you were able to obviously spend some time, etc., off at different stages and get to know the island more, get to know the British Virgin Islands, which again, as 21, 22-year-old me, it was an incredible experience the first time round. And obviously, subsequently it was a fantastic time all 3 times I was there.
Mm-hmm. So you had plenty of spare time still?
Yeah, it was quite surreal, to be perfectly honest. I mean, when I first got there, the clients ultimately, they weren't there for the first few days, and sort of getting somewhat acclimatized to that world was just insane and quite difficult, to be perfectly honest, for the first few days.
How do you mean?
Well, it was, you go there, and I've been very, very fortunate with my upbringing. I'm from the northeast, from Newcastle, state educated, relatively normal upbringing in a sense. And then to be, flown out into the Caribbean. I hadn't been to the Caribbean before. And then to be involved in something that is just so vastly different. You go there and you just don't talk about money. The money isn't a question. It isn't anything that you talk about. It's what are we doing today? What's important to these people? It's probably more so down to things like relationships as opposed to actually buying Ferraris and things like that. Mm-hmm. They've sort of been there, done that in a sense. Right. They don't really need to, or they're not looking to prove themselves.
Did you feel intimidated?
I was probably pretty intimidated the first time. Mm-hmm. The first week or so, again, it was totally outside of my comfort zone in a sense. But what I would say is that was probably more of me putting that on myself, as opposed of anybody being intimidated.
Yes.
I mean, my experience of, successful individuals is, they're not trying to make you fearful of them or anything like that. They're totally normal individuals who have obviously done well. But that doesn't, it doesn't mean that they're nasty or they're, harsh like that at all. And I think it was more just a case of really, your perspective and your perceptions of going to a private island, going and being around those sorts of circles. It's more really a reflection of what you think about maybe yourself fitting in or not fitting in. Yeah. As opposed to actually anyone being nasty in a sense.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. And so what did you learn from the ultra high net worth individuals you coached?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a few different things. The first thing is focus. Even coaching on a tennis court, if I ask, can we please look at this, or can we have, we need to go and spend some time on a forehand, or boring stuff, really. There was no issue with that. What was required to get better was just a given, and that was absolutely fine. And the ability to focus and concentrate on things for extended periods of time without, having sort of any or being able to distance themselves from distractions was pretty interesting. And then I think the other thing is there's two really other things. The first thing is they're always looking to back themselves in whatever they're trying to do. So they have big goals, big aspirations. And they don't really, it didn't seem to me like they hesitated much. If they wanted to go and do something, right, I'm going to go and do it. And there wasn't much sort of grey in a sense. It was like yes or no, black or white in a sense. And there wasn't that like grey hesitation that, typically most people obviously have. So I'd say that, and then, clearly working extremely hard. And I think that was one of the things, again, I've grown up, fortunately, being able to see my parents work hard, etc., and different things like that. They're no different in a sense, but being really, really smart, being able to sacrifice different things where necessary to work hard and actually make something. Again, it's sort of that ability to be comfortable being uncomfortable, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. So. And it's interesting that you noticed how they were different on a tennis court as well in terms of focus and attitude.
Yeah, I mean, there wasn't much of a battle, I wouldn't say, in terms of keeping things fresh.
Okay.
If you got to think about it, I was coaching a lot of these people day in, day out for a 4-week period, probably twice a day, a lot of the time as well. And the first thing for me when I was coaching tennis was actually, right, how do I keep this engaging? Because there's a lot of time that they're spending with me in a sense here. And I don't want to just do the same boring, repetitive stuff.
Yeah.
And, normally you would be trying to cycle different things around, do different drills, look at the serve or look at the forehand or do some match play, fine, whatever. But it didn't feel like there was much of a necessity to have to do that.
Because you just knew they had that dedicated passion. And
if you had to go and spend loads of time doing something sort of boring in a sense to get the outcome that was required and desired, then that was absolutely fine, and they were willing to in a sense pay that sacrifice on a tennis court if nothing else to.
And that was perhaps different to people you'd coached back home.
Well, possibly.
Yeah, maybe.
I think I think it's only fair and understanding as well, given the different people's lives, different people's situations as well. People look to come in and get involved in tennis in a sense, and they're looking for an outlet or for the social element or to get better, etc. So they're maybe looking for other things as well. But there probably wasn't as much of a focus, I wouldn't say, to be perfectly honest, in what I saw on the Caribbean.
Interesting. And did you ever meet or coach Sir Richard Branson?
No, I didn't. Full cards on the table. I didn't. He was always skiing, unfortunately, when I was there. So I was there normally over the festive periods over the Christmas and New Year. And so he was normally skiing, which is a bit of a pain. I quite fancy giving him a game of tennis.
And I'm sure you probably don't want to mention them, but I'm sure you probably met a lot of other kind of famous, well-known people.
Yeah, I mean, clearly I can't say with it being under NDA and all of that sort of jazz, but he's a lot of different businesses that you see sort of day to day in in the UK, abroad, etc. There's a lot of people who were involved in those sorts of, as maybe it's a startup as opposed to what they are now as well.
Yeah. Are you still connected?
Less so, to be perfectly honest.
Okay.
I mean, given the business commitments, etc., that I've got now, just finding the time is difficult. And the time that it was always going over generally over that festive period. And again, I was willing, in a sense, dare I say, to sacrifice time with friends and family when I was younger, because it was a really incredible experience.
Absolutely, yeah.
But now that I'm further down south, I obviously don't have the luxury of being with my family and friends as much now. That's unfortunately or fortunately taken priority, I guess. So,
yeah, of course, that makes sense. Was there one more important piece of advice that stood out against some of the other advice that they gave you?
I think goal setting.
Okay.
And I'm pretty big on podcasts, pretty big on, Audible and listening to different things. I think, Wolf of Wall Street probably isn't the person to coin in a sense and to use, but Jordan Belfort talks about having beer goals and beer standards, or champagne standards and beer goals.
Beer goals.
Beer, as in, so beer or champagne, the higher the standard or the lower the standard. So what I mean by that is most people normally focus on they're comfortable hitting a goal that is lower and lesser, like a beer goal.
Right, I see.
Whilst what I would say is all of these guys had champagne goals.
I see, okay.
And were willing to do the work to get that.
Okay.
So having big aspirations, big goals, big dreams in a sense, and hopefully serendipity gets you towards those sorts of things.
And you've mentioned some shared personality traits on the tennis court. Were there any other kind of shared personality traits that you noticed?
I think goal setting's one. Gratitude maybe is another. I got told to journal 3 things every day for what 3 things that you're grateful for basically every day. I'll be perfectly honest, I'm not really that good at being consistent with these sorts of things.
I get it.
but I think being grateful, being from a place of, ultimately of being comfortable and confident with what we've done to date, and then being able to build from that, I think is one of them. But again, the biggest takeaway for me was they backed themselves.
Yeah, so impressive.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
And, the ability to go and say, right, yes or no, make a decision very quickly without that hesitation element. And then when they're going to go and do something, they go and make it happen in a sense.
Yeah. So. It is interesting because out of quite a lot of people I've interviewed on the podcast, some of the really successful people, they back themselves, and that's something they always say as well. But I don't know whether it comes naturally or they've had to learn to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of that is probably perception and, different moments in life maybe put a different perspective on things, doesn't it? So, and, we talk about, we sort of highlighted on risk there. Risk is totally subjective.
Yes, absolutely.
And the ability to go and say, that same risk in a sense for one person is going to be really daunting, for another it's not. And I think different situations, experiences really shape that perspective of risk. And then the ability to go out and do something in a sense makes it, it either makes it way easier or it makes it really, really hard in a sense to go out and do things. So, perspective, I guess.
Yeah. And just I think sometimes success comes down to how comfortable people are with risk.
Yeah.
Certainly in a financial sense anyway. Did you meet anyone that seemed, obviously they're wealthy, but did they seem unhappy?
Not necessarily. I mean, again, I can't really say too much.
No.
But no, I wouldn't say anyone was unhappy. I think you think about what they've obviously achieved financially is one thing. And, money's undoubtedly, it's important. It gives a level of comfort. Maybe you're not worrying about a mortgage payment or something like that.
Yeah.
Totally get that. So, that probably brings them a bit of comfort, etc. there. But what was really interesting was the happiness wasn't down to obviously the financial element. It was down to actually the relationships that they actually had. Mm-hmm. And it also felt that the relationships ultimately were way more important to them than a typical person in my eyes. Mm-hmm. Because clearly, you know, we're thinking about mortgages, we're thinking about this, we're thinking about that. There's all sorts of different things that go through your mind, whilst if that's not an issue, then you've got more time to focus on maybe the things that are really important to them.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Almost like money doesn't make you happier necessarily, but it makes things easier. Yeah. And then in return, you know, then it can make you happier because you've got more time to focus on things that make you happy. So, yeah. And did being around those people, did that change your ambitions for your career?
Yeah, I mean, drastically, to be perfectly honest. So yeah, I touched on, I was at Durham. I did an undergraduate degree looking at sport, and I was going to do sports psychology long term. Quite enjoyed sort of the mindset of an elite athlete. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then, you know, ended up translating over to a master's looking at finance, because I saw a lot of correlation between the mindset of an elite athlete and that of a business exec, or a financier in a sense. And I was looking at sort of grad schemes, sort of private equity, investment banking. That was sort of what I was originally aiming for. And I think after that experience, it totally reshaped my perspective of actually, you know, we don't have that long, unfortunately, on this planet.
Yeah, it's true.
And I really want to go and try and make a mark in a sense. And so I think it really sort of made me more aware ultimately of where I was in my sort of life, in a sense of being 21, 22. I've got an opportunity here to maybe take it without having too much risk. Mm-hmm. If I want to go and do something slightly different, maybe it's a bit unconventional. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, you know, the experience, it changed my perspective in career direction in terms of wanting drastically more, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, it is interesting. So, did it just open your eyes about what was possible? And did they almost make it seem like it was easy to achieve?
I wouldn't say it was easy. Mm-hmm. What I would say is, you know, you see a lot of these people in magazines, in the media, and they feel very, very far away. And that sort of world feels extremely far away, distant, totally, you know. And when I say this, you know, I love the Northeast. The Northeast is my home. But clearly there's a big change and there's different worlds here in a sense.
It's not Necker Island, is it?
No. And I think I wouldn't say it was necessarily easy, but it did help bring that more of a reality. Mm-hmm. And so that it wasn't in a sense unachievable, because I've been fortunate to see it, smell it, and sort of live in a sense within it. So I wouldn't say it was easy, but it was a lot closer.
Yes.
It felt after go.
Yeah, that makes sense. And was living on the island your idea of paradise?
I mean, look, it was incredible. I'm not going to lie. You know, there's yachts, helicopters, boats, whatever. I think the place itself is incredible. But I think ultimately the ability to go and say yes to things was actually the more interesting thing. And my paradise, I don't know quite what my paradise, I haven't got it planned out at the moment. And, you know, that'll probably change as I grow up, etc. as well. Yeah. But it was pretty close, to be perfectly honest.
Amazing. So. And how do you feel about going on holiday now? Do you feel it's a disappointment?
It's well, I think you've always got that comparison. I think, I mean, I view holidays now more as a break, to be perfectly honest, which is nice. So that could be pretty much anywhere.
Yeah, true.
But yeah, I mean, you know, I think there's only few things that can really compare to a private island, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Would you be welcome back? Have you got kind of an open invitation?
I mean, not as a guest, I don't think. Maybe if I was on court helping out, I don't know, maybe hopefully. But again, you know, it's just finding time. And I say that and it sounds totally ungrateful, you know. But I guess, you know, what I guess I wanted to sort of change in a sense was, I have aspirations to actually create something of myself. I don't want to be a part of, working for somebody who's done that in a sense.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
And I say that totally respectfully. There's absolutely nothing wrong with either or whatever.
No. Mm-hmm.
I guess that's sort of just my personal ambition now.
Most of the people there, they kind of created their own success rather than achieve success through working for other people.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's what inspired you then to go on your entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah. A lot of startups.
Yeah.
A lot of acquisitions as well.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So, I sort of got the idea of what I'm doing now. I was looking at, I wanted to go into business, fine. I wanted to go into finance or something to do with finance. I'd looked at private equity and their different strategies and found that the buy and build, buying small businesses, professionalizing them, rolling them together as a group was really interesting. And a number of the individuals that I spoke to, they'd done something similar.
Okay.
And I think, I was really fortunate to be sort of a bit of a sponge in terms of these sorts of situations, learning from people who have actually done that, rather than being involved in maybe working for a private equity house and then actually going and doing it on behalf of a private equity fund. So I was very fortunate to go and say, actually, right, this is what made sense to me logically. But now I've actually got the emotional element, which I've got more comfort because I've seen people who have done it and who actually have made it work as well.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Yeah. So you're currently running a business that's already valued at millions.
Yeah.
Talk me kind of almost backwards from the journey of leaving. When you left the island, kind of, did you go and start it straight away?
Yeah. So came back in 2022, early sort of in the year. I'd played around and sort of, had ideas about what it was that I wanted to do before that in terms of a buy and build. Didn't know the sector, didn't know any of the industries or anything like that really to go into. And decided, right, I'm going to go and basically use a bit of trial and error and try and find a way where I can potentially get a good team together, get some investors on board, and ultimately go after a buy and build strategy. I was very fortunate again, sort of my parents gave me like books like, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki. Yeah. From an early age, I've probably read that about 40 times or listened to it 40 times. And he obviously talks about buying assets. Yes. Creating cash flow. And I thought, right, well, this is a great opportunity to do so. So the thought was, right, I can either look at real estate, buying assets and rental units primarily. My issue really with real estate that I saw was you're going to have a load of equity. You can obviously leverage it with debt because it's a tangible asset. That's fine, no problem. Or you can look at a business, which again is more of a subjective nature in terms of valuation. And also you can really affect change within a business as opposed to, actually having to do big redevelopments, et cetera, on real estate. And so I just thought that this was a better opportunity really for me to be able to get into the guts of a business and hopefully change valuations by actually influencing it. So set my sights on a buy and build strategy, researched all sorts of different industries, looked at the dental industry, saw that there was a lot of corporates already in play, but maybe it didn't have the best reputation. Hopefully people don't take too sourly to me after saying that. But I thought, well, here's an opportunity to actually look on the dental practice side originally, to maybe come in and try and evoke some change there. And we ended up piecing together a team, a board. I've been very, very fortunate with the people that I've been able to bring on board. Kieran Callan, my executive chairman. Kieran's been, a mentor as well for me, and has given an awful lot to the business and also to me personally. So, I'm in a great deal of debt to him. But we put together a great team, got some cash basically together from the board and myself, and then went on a bit of a trail looking at different businesses to go and buy. And we looked at dental practices sort of in 2022 up to 2020, sort of mid 2023. Realized that there was probably a bit too much competition and there wasn't that much value add that we thought we could actually achieve within these businesses. You know, there's cost synergies, there's improved marketing. You can maybe see some chair efficiencies and optimizing how much time is actually spent with patients on the chair. And maybe it's a redevelopment of the premises to get another chair involved or another surgery, etc. Apart from that, there wasn't that many key drivers that we thought we could actually create significant value, added value ultimately to these businesses. And so sort of early 2024, we pivoted to looking at a different subset, which was dental laboratories, and sort of haven't looked back. And a dental laboratory, if people don't know, is we basically make the bespoke teeth. So veneers, crowns, bridges, dentures, whatever you need, retainers, mouth guards, anything like that. Our lab basically makes those products, and we work with dentists as our customers to support them in actually creating these products. And so we pivoted to that, put the cash together, saw that there was an awful lot more value that we could add, hopefully, with these businesses. You know, there's a change in technology at the moment, load of digitalization, coupled with the average age of a technician being 58. There's got to be a requirement to go down that digital workflow. And so we thought that's a really quite interesting proposition. And then, you know, there's things like marketing and professionalization of these businesses, which, you know, a lot of techs are fantastic technical individuals, but maybe haven't had quite the experience of running a business or running it effectively within an enterprise sort of situation. Yep. And so we thought that's a great opportunity to get in. And we ended up, you know, talking to hundreds of different businesses trying to look for the first one. And we bought the first one in 2024, October, which is in Byfleet.
Did you go on gut feel or more the financial stats opportunity?
I think there's a lot of different things like obviously come into a transaction. I think the first thing is motivation of sellers. So what are people actually wanting out of a transaction on the other side? Clearly we want to come in, buy a business and improve it. But maybe it's actually being able to, you know, to merge and to change these transaction structures so that it works for a seller is really important. So there was an element of maybe the more that we heard about that business, the more it made sense from a person-to-person gut feeling situation, but also obviously financially it made sense too. So that was the first business in 2024.
How old were you then?
I was 24.
Okay.
Bought the first one when I was 24. Bought the second one in April of 2025. The third one in October of 2025. And then we bought our recent one too in March 26. So
okay, yeah.
It's been pretty full on.
Yeah, it sounds it.
Yeah.
Have you had to grow up a lot faster, do you think, in business?
I think naturally, yeah. You know, I think it's one of those things where you just have to work and work and work. And, you know, if a typical average working week is 37 and a half hours a week, I've probably been doing 3 times that for the past however long. So I think with the responsibility, you have to grow up and you have to grow up fast. That's fine with me because, you know, it's a price that I'm absolutely willing to make.
You've seen the payoff.
Yeah. And you know, it's also about what it is that I want to do. You know, do I want to go and be on a tennis court coaching tennis? That's just not what I want to do anymore. Yeah. And equally, I would have been happily, you know, able to go and spend loads of time coaching tennis if that was what the passion in a sense was now. Business in a sense is my passion. Doing transactions is a passion. So yeah, it's a sacrifice that I'm really happy to make.
Do you get the same buzz out of doing a deal as you did on the tennis court?
Probably more so, dare I say.
Like back when you were more competitive and winning matches.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think the thing that I've actually learned probably growing up more so is being actually more competitive.
Okay.
So, when I was younger and playing tennis, I loved playing tennis, even if it was more performance tennis. I loved playing tennis for tennis. It wasn't because I wanted to compete.
Okay.
As a forefront. It feels more like now, maybe I guess I've grown up a little bit more, and I actually more so like the competition element of how can we really improve a business? How can we get a really good deal? How can we work with people to actually evolve some sort of change in a sense within the industry? And to be honest, that probably gives me a bit more of a high in a sense than probably what I had on a tennis court previously.
Yeah, I do always think there's a lot of similarities from sport to business, a lot of positive transfers.
Yeah.
Is there any that in particular that you've felt?
Yeah, I mean, totally. I mean, one of the things, playing a load of tennis, one of the things that I got told, so I was very fortunate. I had a fantastic tennis coach growing up, Dave, and then I ended up getting mentored for a period as well by the late Steve Black.
Oh, yeah.
And Steve was awesome. But I think one of the things that came from tennis was the fact at which, if you get nerves or you've got a twitchy stomach in a sense, those nerves are exactly the same symptoms of being excited. And I think the ability to flip it where necessary has been really, really useful because, going into a meeting where, again, I was 22, didn't really know much, still a sponge in a sense, very fortunate to have great people around me to help me. But I think there was many a time where I was nervous and I had to turn that into excitement.
Yeah, it's so true. And even if it's just getting used to handling nerves from a young age, going out on court. For me, it was going out into the swimming pool.
Yeah.
Transferring that into something positive.
Totally. And, dealing with pressure, etc.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I think, again, it comes back down to what I saw on the island, the ability to sort of back yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've learned that within sport, it's probably the earliest opportunity in somebody's life to actually learn that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So again, sport's been fantastic for me, and I was absolutely advocate any young person to be playing loads of sport. So.
Yeah, it is weird because I did this podcast guesting thing. It was about women in business and building your business. And they did say, what's the one thing you wish you could have taught your younger self? And my words were to back myself more, because, I do think, particularly young people, they lack that confidence.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you'd want to say to your younger self?
Well, I think, I guess, you talk about the differences between maybe somebody who's ultra successful and who maybe hasn't been ultra successful. And it boils down to the ability to go and make something happen and to your point, have the confidence and, courage ultimately to actually go and try and make something. Okay. I think there's two things that I would say to my younger self. The first thing is exposure. Clearly, I've been extremely fortunate how everything's panned out. The ability to go over to the Caribbean and see that world has been, I was the right person at the right time, I guess. I was very, very fortunate. But I think the ability to be exposed to different things like that is really important. And that could be via anything. It could be cold calling a lawyer, an accountant, or whatever it is that you want to get into business. And just get exposed to different things, because that way then you learn through trial and error as well. And I think the second thing, to be honest, is, to coin Steve Jobs a bit. Again, Steve, probably arguably one of the best entrepreneurs that's ever lived. He talks about you can only connect the dots looking back. So you've got to make a move, whether it's the right or whether it's the wrong move, still make a move, because then you can pivot and actually move and progress from there. Mm-hmm. So, and that's sort of served me very well, I guess, because a lot of it's been trial and error, learning on the job in a sense. Mm-hmm. And, the ability to now look back and say, right, well, I've done this so far, way more to go, hopefully. But, without actually taking the first leap, I wouldn't have been able to do what I've done.
Totally. I totally agree with that. And sometimes people want to wait until things are perfect.
Yeah.
But you just got to go for it.
Totally. I mean, again, I think back to sort of the first few things that I knew that I needed to do to create the business. It was go and get a team, go and get some money and get some deals. And those were the first three things. None of it was perfect. But after doing the first three things, then the next branches appeared. And then suddenly you're off and you gain momentum.
Yeah, momentum's critical in business, isn't it?
Totally.
And we've mentioned success a lot. I just wondered what your definition of success is.
Well, for me, it's living without regret.
That's nice. Mm-hmm.
You know, I mentioned that we don't have that long on the earth. I'm 26 now. Probably sounds a bit,
so old.
a bit sad in a sense, you know, but I think the ability to go and say, you know, go and take risks, go and live life on your own terms is something that's really important to me. You know, when the time comes and, you know, I'm no longer here, I want to be able, you know, people to look back and say, well, at least he did it on his own terms and he gave it a go. So I think success is really living without regret. And obviously, hopefully, you know, creating significant value for customers, for employees, and obviously the investors as well that have been fortunate. I've been very, very fortunate to have backed me as well.
Mm-hmm. Lovely. And you have mentioned that you're 26 now. You're bound to be leading people who are a lot older than you. How do you handle that?
Well, I think first and foremost, you know, Rosemont is team built. I'm not self-made. I'm team built.
Okay.
And I think, you know, the self-awareness is something that's really important. You know, you want people who are better than you surrounding you. Mm-hmm. And I think having the actual, maybe it's confidence or, again, the self-awareness to actually go and say, that's fine, because they're playing their part and I'm playing my part. So I'm not competing with people for experience. That's not the way in which I want to view it. Mm-hmm. Probably leave.
What's your ultimate career ambition?
Well, I think doing a few really strong exits, you know, looking at improving the user experience of our products, the dentists at the moment, so that they have a great experience dealing with our businesses. And alongside that, you know, the customer experience, the employee experience. You know, everybody talks about the entrepreneur, the this, the leader, the, you know, whatever. But nobody actually talks about the people who actually create and run the business day to day. Mm-hmm. And they are more important ultimately than the leader in my eyes.
Yeah, no, I agree. We've talked a little bit about risk. How comfortable are you with risk?
Yeah, I mean, I've risked basically everything. All of, in a sense, the money that I had through tennis coaching went into the business. So I guess I'm pretty comfortable with risk. I mean, I'm not sleeping with one eye open at night, fortunately. I think ultimately it comes back down to the ability to just back yourself. If you're comfortable with and confident in terms of you creating a success, then the risk is, again, subjective and it sort of evaporates, hopefully, in some nature. So, yeah, pretty comfy.
Brilliant. Did you find it easier embracing risk as a young person? I know you've got no comparison at this stage, but I know that I did. That's all because I had so much less to lose.
Yeah. I mean, I think, you know, again, that comes back down to the awareness element earlier. Mm-hmm. I looked at it when I came back from the Caribbean and said, right, if there's a time to do something, this is the time to do it.
Yeah.
And I don't want that opportunity to pass by. So I think it definitely helped me. And again, you know, hopefully I could potentially go and get a job if necessary, if it didn't work out, etc.
Always. And yeah, I think also creating your own business makes you so much more employable.
Yeah.
I don't think your mindset's not necessarily geared up to it, but anymore, because you kind of want to be doing things on your own. You love that freedom. Yeah. But people always want to hire someone, I think, who's had the gumption to do it themselves.
Totally.
Yeah. Personal isn't just about business. It's about the human stories behind them. We address all aspects of health, from cancer, gastric bands and meningitis to mental health and the menopause. Nothing is off limits on this show. But as these stories often highlight, you can't take your health for granted. I know I don't, and that's why I trust WPA to protect my health. WPA isn't like any other health insurer. It's not for profit and offers award-winning, tailored health insurance solutions to individuals, families, and businesses of all sizes. Among UK health insurers, it consistently tops consumer surveys and Trustpilot ratings, while its members can manage their membership from pre-authorising claims to accessing remote GP services, all on the WPA Health app. Crucially, they help ensure the access to the very best treatment at a time and place that is convenient to you. I speak with Martin Nichols, one of the 90 plus dedicated WPA healthcare partners across Britain, who provides advice and ongoing support during your journey with WPA. Contact Martin anytime on 07870 513 653 to discuss your requirements. Martin Nichols, appointed representative of WPA Healthcare Practice PLC, authorised and regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority. The healthcare practice is a wholly owned subsidiary of Western Provident Association Limited, WPA. Going back to the island, was there a moment that your mindset noticeably shifted to kind of think, right, I want this?
I think I saw the fulfillment of the people. And, you know, rightfully or wrongly, you obviously compare yourself and you compare sort of your upbringing, I guess, with what maybe other people are having on that island as well. And, you know, I sound like a pain when I say that, but it was quite interesting because, you know, you see these people, they've clearly worked hard, but so has my parents. Mm-hmm. And I guess it basically made me think, right, well, there's the massive fulfillment that these people have obviously had and got through sharing this with their family. They've created something that's meaningful in financial terms. And I guess when I was there was on Christmas Day, the first time I was there, I watched the sunset. Bizarrely got really emotional, not normally an emotional kind of person, I guess. And figured, right, well, I've got to probably go and create something. I want to share this sort of experience with my family, you know, current and future. And that was probably the moment really when I was looking at this sunset, which was just mesmerizing.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm not the only one that does that.
Yeah, no,
I cried at sunrise the other day.
Yeah, it's not that frequent for me, but
no, it's not that frequent for me either.
But yeah, no, it was bizarre, and I think after that sort of moment and seeing how it had all been, in terms of, you know, how these people were living, how these people were able to share and support their family, yeah, I came back pretty inspired and obviously hungry.
But that was your moment. That's that sunset.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Were there any negative experiences from you as part of your home life, your friends and family that were perhaps jealous? I
don't think, you know, not family, God no. I've got less friends, to be perfectly honest, since doing the business, especially. Not, I think, through anybody being necessarily directly jealous or anything like that, or nasty or anything like that. But I also think, you know, entrepreneurship's lonely. Mm-hmm. You don't have things in common. You're not on a grad scheme with, you know, 20, 50 different people around your age learning, you know, accountancy or whatever it is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I think there's an element of less so really with jealousy in a sense, but more just circumstance. This has changed.
Less in common.
Yeah. I mean, there's probably a few comments here and there, but, you know, it's no skin off my back, I guess. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, definitely. Did you feel a little bit out of place when you came back home?
Way more aware.
Aware, okay.
Again, sort of, to be honest, I probably came back and I was probably in massive pain to my parents, my family, to be honest, because I think it was difficult. You know, you go there and you see, you know, that life, that world. You then come back. There's absolutely nothing wrong with the way in which I was brought up. It was fantastic. Again, I was very fortunate. But it sort of made me question, you know, well, my parents work extremely hard. They've clearly worked extremely hard. Hang on a moment, what's going on here? So, and I think there was elements where I probably looked at my parents and said, why haven't we got this? Which was really unfair. And, you know, I don't think it's necessarily all about hard work. I think it's, there's necessary sacrifices and obviously hard work alongside. But what it really showed me was it's actually about the opportunity vehicle that you're putting in your time and energy and effort. If you're going to do a startup and it's a really big successful startup, a Google, clearly working 120 hours a week on that is going to prove greater financial success than if you're doing 120 hours a week doing a normal, typical job in a sense. And so I think it basically made me more aware of what's out there, what's current here, what situation I'm in, and how ultimately I need to get to where I want to get to eventually.
Yeah. And what's more important to you? Because obviously you were on this island, you've gained these amazing experiences, you've seen the life that you almost want to create, and you know that money is an important factor in that. Was it kind of a case of I need to make money, or is it a case of I need to enjoy my career? What's more important to you, making money or enjoying a career?
Like making money is clearly very important. And the reason for that is, you think about, God forbid anything ever happened for a future family and I needed to pay for treatment and it wasn't on the NHS or it wasn't in the UK and you had to fly over to, I don't know, Germany or something, I don't know. And I think money is really important to give security to you, your family and your friends in times of need. I think that's probably a big driver really for me, to be perfectly honest, in terms of what I've went and done. There's the risk, there's that, there's this, the other. But really what it boils down to is the ability to have enough financial means that you and your family are secure in times of need, which is really important. So money is extremely important, and being totally transparent, it's equally as important, absolutely, as then making something where it's an everlasting difference to a business. I don't think the idea of enjoying a career, in my eyes, is probably as high of a priority as actually I need to make money for myself and my family. I don't mind getting down and dirty in a sense in terms of a career if I need to, in terms of rolling up my sleeves and posting jobs, etc., or helping out in any way, shape or form. It doesn't matter to me. I don't mind doing any of that, provided that obviously there's that financial motive in a sense, I guess.
Yeah, the return. So you'd rather do something that perhaps you didn't enjoy as much that makes more money, rather than doing something you really enjoyed that makes less money.
It sounds quite sad.
No, it doesn't. I think it's very honest. I think there's a lot of people like that. But I think, obviously your perspective is from a young age, maybe another 20 years into the career, that might take its toll. Yeah.
And again, it really depends, because, if you're able to get a good exit, then there's the opportunity to say, okay, well, during this period of my life, I worked extremely hard. I'm fortunate. I do enjoy what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But even if I didn't, well, it was for that time of life. Now I've been able to exit for this, and now I can now go and enjoy the life that I really wanted to as well. I guess, you just, it feels like in my eyes, maybe, other people have got it maybe better or got a better balance, etc. But it feels like you can't have it all.
I agree with that.
And I think that's absolutely fine, as long as you then have a sort of strategic direction of what you want to do and where you want to get to, and what the end goal ultimately is, and in your aim.
Yeah, definitely. I think there are some people that do have it all, are very fortunate to have it all. But I think it's very difficult. It's that constant time versus money trade-off.
Yeah. You would talk about Richard Branson. Well, Richard Branson's prime example. He's been very financially successful. He's in extremely good shape and in good health. He's got great relationships. There's a lot of, seemingly he's got an incredible balance, which I'm sort of maybe yet to master in a sense, because I know that I'm not in the gym as much as I probably should be, etc. But that, again, it's sort of, you pay the price at different stages, and it is sort of what it is.
Maybe that's true success, that balance of everything.
So
interesting. And it's a good time to mention our sponsor actually here, the WPA Health Insurance, because you mentioned obviously that it's really important in life to protect your health. Totally. So very grateful for our sponsor. Okay, so who keeps you grounded?
I think family, friends. To be perfectly honest, I mean, I've been very fortunate again with a great support network in a sense of great family around me. I've got a great board who are focused and help me sort of focus my mind, I guess, on the tasks and the direction that's required there too. And I think, you know, life has a funny way of actually reminding you to be grateful and to be, you know, to be grounded. You know, we talk about the sunsets and different things. It sounds bizarre, but, you know, when I'm in London, every so often there's a nice sunset and you're walking over, I don't know, a bridge or something like that, and you can see it's like, well, you know, it's quite interesting how I've got to this stage so far. Hopefully, obviously, there's way more to come, etc. But yeah, I think life has a funny way of grounding you as well, if you're looking for the right things.
Yeah, in nature, the simplicity of nature, but how magnificent it is.
Totally.
Mm-hmm. What do you think really matters in life?
Again, sort of, you know, without, you know, no regrets. I think you've got to be true to who you are. And, you know, we talk about the financial element just before there. I'd rather be totally direct when it's good and when it's bad. And people see me for who I am, in a sense, I guess. Mostly good, the bad and the ugly. But I think you've got to live your life, in my eyes, up to this stage, being true to yourself without that regret. So I think that's where I'd put it.
Brilliant. And you have no regrets so far?
No, very fortunately. Yeah, didn't want to live with any. So no, at the moment, touch wood, it's been really good.
Brilliant. And do you come back to the Northeast quite often?
To be perfectly honest, I mean, at the moment, the business commitments have been pretty crazy. I need to come up way more frequently, in a sense. I come back probably once every 2 months or so to see my family and friends. But it's been quite difficult, to be perfectly honest, to come up as frequently as I would like. Again, that comes back down to the sacrifices and the prioritization of where you are, I guess, in your career and within your life. You know, in a few years' time, I'd love to be able to go and say, okay, right, I'm popping up north and stay for 2 weeks or whatever, and have that greater flexibility.
Yeah. So. What's one thing that the Northeast has over Necker Island?
Community.
Cool.
You know, and it's the same obviously in London. I mean, you know, everybody goes down to London from the Northeast and no one's living, you know, happy. No one's talking to me or anything like that. I think, you know, the Northeast, the ability to be hardworking, genuine people who are actually interested in saying hello in the morning, how are you doing, etc. My accent isn't very strong, so I apologise. I was going to say I read it. Yeah, I think that community element and actually the ability to go and create deep and meaningful connections with people is way easier up north.
Oh, absolutely. I used to do quite a bit of work down in London. Yeah. And I did really struggle because at the start of the meeting, we always just have a bit of a chat about our lives up here. Yeah. And there wasn't any of that. No. And if I did start a conversation, they made me feel weird.
It can be quite transactional.
Yeah, it really felt transactional. I felt like really like lost and soulless down there.
Yeah.
But it is still an incredible place. And I love the buzz of London, but I'm still always very grateful to come back home.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, so final question before we go into the regular feature. Cool. Say there's someone listening to this, they're young, they feel a little bit lost in their career at the moment. What's some advice you'd give them? Again, that exposure is key. Go out. I would, you know, numbers, life's a numbers game at the end of the day. If you want to go and get experience in whatever that field that is, I would go and send 100 emails to, you know, if it's lawyers, I'll go and send 100 emails to solicitors. If it's private equity, whatever it is, if it's tennis, you know, it doesn't really matter. I think the ability to go out and put just sheer numbers out there in the universe normally gives you something back in return, I guess. Yeah. So I think there's that. And then obviously, as I mentioned before, you know, Steve Jobs, you have to make a move. If it's right or if it's wrong, it doesn't really matter because you'll then pivot and then you'll correct it. But without actually ever making the move and making the action, taking the action, you know, you can't then look back on something that you've hopefully created or the journey that you've endured. Yeah, 2 really good points there. And I guess finally back yourself to end on that theme.
Totally.
Brilliant. Okay, so now on to our regular questions, Rob.
Yeah.
On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the worst, 10 being the best, you have to rate yourself at the following.
God.
Number 1, how good looking would you say you are?
4 max.
Okay, how funny would you say you are?
4 maybe as well, yeah.
Right, how good? You're not backing yourself much here.
To be honest, it depends how many drinks I've had. Probably maybe it increases a little bit if I'm being a bit daft.
How good at cooking?
The right dish, probably an 8.
Okay.
If you ask me to create anything from scratch, a 2.
Right. Singing?
In the shower, a 6.
Okay, excellent. And how good at drinking alcohol? Do you drink much? Or do you not drink?
Not as much now.
Mm-hmm.
I like wine now. Growing up, it was, I think we mentioned earlier, at Durham, going to Clute and the different clubs. It's pretty good back in the day, I would say. Probably a 9 back in the day.
Parenting skills. So do you have any children?
No.
No? Okay. Do you have any animals?
My parents have got a dog.
Okay.
Crazy. And I think I'm quite good with her, to be perfectly honest, when I'm up, probably 7, 8.
Okay, excellent. How good a friend are you?
I'm probably not the most frequent person to go and spend loads of time with at the pub, etc., and things like that. But I think if somebody calls me up and needs help, or if they want to have a chat, probably an 8, I would hopefully say. Okay,
lovely. How intelligent are you?
5, bang average. I've been very fortunate with trial and error. It's not intellectual. I'm not intellectually incredible here. It's trial and error.
Well, I do think people always downplay that question, but that's an interesting fact. Of like how important you think intelligence is in becoming successful, certainly financially successful?
I wouldn't say naturally intelligent, or being naturally intelligent is the massive key requirement.
Mm-hmm.
I'd probably say that's probably a 4 in terms of sheer requirement of what you actually need. But I think a lot of it's actually down to the mindset first and foremost. So I was listening to podcasts, I was reading books, personal development, all of that sort of rubbish, since I was probably 15.
Really? Okay.
I talk about Rich Dad, Poor Dad. He had like a cash flow like game, which was sort of like Monopoly in a sense. And I got that when I was probably 12 or 13, looking back from my parents.
Right, okay.
So maybe they instilled this.
Subconsciously,
I guess.
Interesting.
But I think a lot of it is trial and error. Because, learning on the actual job, there's no better way in my eyes to learning. You get then a quick response, and you actually have the data and the feedback that's required to actually be able to push forward. So I would say, look, it's more a case of going on a journey, doing lots of trial and error, doing lots of numbers, repetition, as opposed to actual intellectual.
Yeah, or maybe like intellectual agility.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and how kind are you?
4.
Okay. And finally, how good at sex are you?
2. I've got a lot more to learn on that one.
You're only young.